Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Kafka Unleashed, Powering Real-Time AI with Streaming Data. My name is Matt Brown, and I'll be your moderator today. One of my jobs at SingleStore is to organize these weekly AI webinars, 2 per week, demoing data and AI use cases and new tools and technologies. I post about these upcoming webinars every week, so if any of these topics are interesting to you, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn to stay in the loop with our upcoming sessions. I'd also love to hear any feedback uh, on our past sessions or any ideas that you have on future sessions. Speaking of future sessions, you will see that we've got some really awesome subjects coming up over the next few days. So on Monday, the 22nd, we're doing hands-on with Vercel AI SDK and generative UI. Really, really cool. It's kind of like the ChatGPT interface, but as you talk to it, it can generate interfaces. It can generate a weather widget if you ask it about weather. It can generate a stock ticker interface. Really, really cool. Kind of the future, I think, glimpse into the future. And then on Wednesday, we've got build AI apps and agents taking action on your behalf in just minutes with Phi data. And then on Friday, we've got Gemini 1.5 Pro, the latest new version. It's got the native audio, the file API, JSON mode, and 1 million context window. Wow. It's going to be really fun to see what Gemini is capable of and the latest from Google. So if that's interesting to you, take a photo or a screenshot of any of those links. That'll take you to the RSVP pages. We're still working on that automatic registration for upcoming AI webinars. If you just want to register to all of them with one click, not built yet. So for now, if you like multiple of them, just visit the individual pages. I'm going to put these links in the chat in just a minute so that you can one click and get there. But give me a minute. I'll post that in a second. Back to today's topic, we would love for you to participate in the discussion throughout the session. There's a Zoom Q&A button at the bottom of your console. We're going to try to answer all of the questions that come in, even if that means following up with some folks via email afterwards if we get a ton of questions, which occasionally happens. But the one caveat is that they can't be anonymous. If you logged in anonymously, just take a minute, log out, log back in, include your name and email address so that we can follow up with you or answer your question. Also, we would love for you to try out the technology that we're going to be showing today. In fact, anyone who tries it today will be entered for a chance to win brand new AirPods Pros or the new Meta Ray-Ban LLM smart glasses. It'll be your choice. If you're the winner, you can choose whatever your favorite is. Very, very easy to participate. Just log into the link that's on your screen. I'll put that on the chat in a minute as well. Or you can take a photo or a screenshot of that QR code. And yeah, it's really easy. If you're already a customer or have an existing account at SingleStore, just log into the link and you'll be included in today's raffle. If you're a completely new user, we've got a very easy free shared tier, free tier. So you can just log into that, get set up in 30 seconds, and you'll be eligible that way too. Let me introduce our speaker today. Akmal Chowdhury is a senior technical evangelist at SingleStore. He has expertise in big data, machine learning, and AI. He's a regular speaker at our weekly webinars on AI and data. I am excited to see what he's cooked up for us today. Akmal, take it away. The floor is yours.
Great. Thank you very much, Matt. And thank you all for joining. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We know your time is valuable. Hopefully you'll find the session today useful. So Matt will share the links to the resources. Now, there are elements of what I'm going to present that I've done before on Kafka. And I actually wrote a blog post about this as well, which has got kind of step-by-step instructions because we're not just using a notebook today. There's a few other things that we have to include as well. If you want to do the full kind of set right to the end. And so Matt will share that with you. So first things first, I am going to be using some stock data, ticker data, okay? And it is fake. Entirely fictitious, okay? So please be aware of that. The data are being generated, and it's coming through from a broker, Kafka broker, that SingleStore has actually got running. And so you are very welcome to connect to that with the stock ticker topic and utilize the data. But again, be aware that all of the data being generated there is fictitious. Okay, so I can't emphasize that enough. So please don't use any of this data for making any kind of financial decisions. Okay, you have been warned. So let's just move forward then. Okay, so just do the couple of standard SingleStore slides. I mean, we often get asked about the company and the product as much as hard as we try. I mean, and it's wonderful to see new people joining all the time, of course. That's really great. But we realize that, you know, in a world where database systems are a kind of commodity almost, you know, you can pick them off the shelf kind of thing. We are just one of many vendors out there, but I think we have very unique kind of proposition. And so as a company, it was started way back in 2011. And during that period of time, there's some kind of, you know, key landmarks there, but that's okay. Let me just give you this, which is slightly more important. So over that time, the revenue has increased significantly. So we are now just get this, 100 million plus ARR company, okay, annual recurring revenue. And that revenue started to really spike around about this period of time here between 2017 and 2018. And we do have over 350 global customers as well now, okay? And that number started to grow significantly between 2019 and 2020. And along the bottom there, you can see some of the investors, global brands and names, well-known names that you can recognize from a variety of industries. The product itself, well, it's great to show this because this is the kind of high-level 30,000-foot view. So I won't dwell too much on this, okay? So we'll look at some of these things today, but this universal storage provides the ability to work with both OLTP and OLAP data using a single table type. So hence, I think the rather strange graphic there, which is kind of trying to combine rows and columns together, and it gives you this kind of fuzzy kind of look. We integrate very well with lots of external technologies. So if you attended the Spark webinar a couple of days ago that I did, we talked very much about Spark, which is something we haven't really covered a lot in the past. Today, we very much focused on Kafka. And actually, the integration with Kafka is so simple, it's embarrassing. So, you know, we have to have something in the webinar to show you beyond just that. And so we'll use some data, okay? Other things, HDFS, Hadoop. So if you're working with these, many years ago, that was the reason. Hadoop HDFS was the reason that I wanted to get out and, you know, learn and work for a startup. That was quite a long time ago, but that was the motivation for me. And then the animation here, you can see, is really trying to show the ingest. We are going to be using pipelines today, and I'm going to show you how that actually works, okay? How to set it up. Very, very straightforward. So we do work with all three major cloud platform providers in the Western world, okay? So AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure. Today, I will be using AWS. And the technology, the product can also be installed on-prem. There is a 4-node license that you can get free of charge from the portal. And I'll show you that momentarily where you can find that. There is a Docker container as well if you want to try it out that way. You can install it yourself. I actually wrote an article. It was published on DZone a while back, installing SingleStore in a virtual machine. And from time to time, I use that, although you do need to have sufficient resources to run it, obviously. The stored data types, historically, I mean, the product has come from a relational background, but can do other things. Geospatial, for example. It has full text search capability as well, Lucene. Okay, JSON support, that's been there for some time. It's even better now with SingleStore Kai for MongoDB compatibility. So we're going to look at a little bit of time series data today, okay, with the tick data that we've got coming in and vectors. So we'll do a little bit of vectors as well. Other things, so real-time decisions, AI apps, dynamic experiences, dashboards, ad hoc queries, machine learning. So the ad hoc query is very straightforward. There is a built-in SQL editor, which again, I'll show you momentarily. And we talked quite a bit about machine learning over the past couple of months. So a lot of the presentations that I've done have been focused around using various ML technologies. So the event that I did a couple of days ago on Spark, we looked very much at machine learning capabilities. And then in previous webinars, we've covered things like scikit-learn as well, for example, and so on. And building dashboards, very straightforward. Again, whatever is your favorite technology, whether you use Tableau or something, easy to connect that to SingleStore. Excuse me. I like Metabase because it's free. You can get a free version and it's very, very easy to use. Okay. So let me just show you a couple of new slides just to illustrate the point. So historically here, if you can see, I don't know if the icon there is a little bit small, but what we have here is, say, MySQL. Okay. So we've got, say, some batch ingest, we've got some applications that we want to build, and over time, maybe we have some kind of operational requirements as well that we need. And perhaps we want to integrate with some third-party data sources. We might have a requirement to work with JSON data, for example. And MySQL can store JSON data as well. Caching is important for speed and performance. SingleStore does this in spades. So historically, it has come from an purely in-memory technology. The product and the company used to be called MemSQL in the past. So it does that really well. And then other things, you want to be able to search, full text search, for example, adding Elasticsearch here to the mix. And I already mentioned that we do full text search as well. And then, of course, streaming data, okay, which is really the subject of today's topic, integrating with the likes of Kafka, for example, and then other things that you might want to do, analytics, use a data warehouse, for example, and perhaps machine learning, perhaps using something like Spark. So as you can see, quite a bit of technology in there. And that is a challenge. If you are a developer having to learn all of these multiple technologies, I mean, if you can do it, great. You are a Superman or Superwoman. Awesome. Most of us are human, though. And it is really challenging for us to be able to learn multitude of technologies to be able to cope with this kind of scenario. And then from a business perspective, well, your total cost of ownership, your return on investment, you're going to be paying quite a lot of money in different sort of licensing fees and different technologies that you have to use. SingleStore can make that a lot easier for you in terms of simplifying the database sprawl. All you need is one engine. So it can handle the batch ingest, can do the operational, it can integrate with third party. I mentioned the JSON support already. We are going to be doing streaming data today. Okay, transactions and analytics, supports them. We looked at Spark a couple of days ago. Very easy to utilize it with Spark. And other things that you might want to do. So retrieval augmented generation as well in terms of vectors, for example. That's a very popular topic today. Keep in mind that SingleStore has had vector support since 2017, okay? And I've got a little bit of a LangChain example today just to show you that we take a bit of documentation, we chunk it up, we store it, very easy to do. The framework handles that for us, and then we can ask questions of that data. All right, now the vertical that I've picked is fintech. Don't worry if you're not familiar with this. It's absolutely okay. I mean, the key thing is that the pipeline is the most important aspect of this in terms of getting the data into SingleStore. And of course, once the data is streaming in, you can do what you want. You can create your dashboards, you can run SQL queries, and so on. And so that's very, very straightforward and very simple to do. Okay. Fintech, well, particularly, I mean, it's a huge market, estimated to be some 500 billion US dollars by 2028. Global adoption rates of fintech, as there's 25%, it says there, and 96% of consumers are aware of at least one fintech service. So I'm sure all of us, even though we're not particularly familiar with the topic in depth, we know something. I mean, we may come across something that is from this particular vertical. And again, just as an example of some of the companies that we work with in this space, whole range of different applications, as you can see on the left-hand side there, portfolio analytics, real-time fraud. We've covered fraud, I think, a couple of times over the past few months in terms of what SingleStore can do there, algorithmic trading, and so on. Okay, I won't read that list. I mean, you can see that. So lots of possibilities in terms of where it can be used. So let's get to the demos then. I'll leave this here and then just switch to this tab at the top there. Hopefully you can see that. And again, Matt, please keep me straight. So make sure that if I'm saying something that you can see it as well. So the link that Matt has shared with you in the chat, in terms of sign up to be eligible for the draw. Once you do that, I mean, you follow the QR code or the hyperlink, just sign up either with Google or Microsoft, or just use the traditional old way of your first name, last name, and email address, okay? And the two things that you will get that are particularly useful is this free tier, okay, which Matt mentioned. Great for getting started quickly. You do share that environment with other people, although your particular space is entirely protected, okay? I mean, nobody else can see what you're doing and you can't see what anybody else is doing. I mean, that's the whole idea of the shared tier. And the second one here is this $600 in credits. So that's useful if you need sort of dedicated resources for some particular problem that you want to drill down and investigate further. So once you've signed up, okay, you'll get to this kind of landing page. This is the portal. And as you can see, there is this kind of left nav here. Okay, just show it slightly larger. There's a whole bunch of controls on the left-hand side here. And I'm going to use a notebook momentarily, but I'm going to do something else as well. So in order to use notebooks, these Jupyter notebooks, you do need some compute resources. They have to exist before you can run anything. And so the way to do that, as you can see here on the left-hand side, you can see this thing called group. Okay, let me just highlight that for you. There we go. And so if you click on that, this will allow you to fire up your resources. So this is the starter workspace, free shared tier. You can select the workspace name. You can see your choice of cloud provider is a bit limited at the moment, only AWS, and the region is limited as well. Okay, it's only US East 1, North Virginia. But you can modify the database name as well. And then literally you just click this button here and that will provision that for you. And it's like 1 second, right? There are some limitations to this. Okay, be aware of that. It is free, but you can't do absolutely everything everywhere. Okay, so just be aware of that. It's 1 gigabyte of compressed data in terms of storage, one database and 10 tables within that, and a few other things as well. So I think change data capture, CDC technology, which we also have at the moment, cannot be used with this starter workspace, although I think pipelines you can, all right? And the other one is the standard one here. This one, okay? So if you decide you want some dedicated compute resources, then you've got much more flexibility here in terms of cloud provider, regions, okay? And if I just click on this, for example, you can see that you can change the size. The default here is S00, which gives you 2 virtual CPUs, 16 gigabytes of RAM, And for this particular region, it will burn through 0.25 credits per hour, but you can change the region as well. And here you can see you've got lots of options in terms of other workspace sizes that you could use as well. Okay, let me just shut that down. All right, now I've actually got this dedicated workspace currently running. Okay, so I don't need to provision this. If you go for this option, it will take a few minutes to provision because it's just for you. All right, whereas with the free shared tier, it will do that very, very quickly. Okay, let's have a look. So here's the SQL editor that I'm using, and let me just show you what I've done, and then we'll shift to the notebook itself. Okay, so the editor is available again in the left nav here. Okay, let me just highlight that for you. There we go. And then essentially it's just SQL statements here. So all I've done is I've created a database here, okay, called time series DB. And then I've created two tables. First is this table called tick, which has got the symbol, timestamp, and then the open, high, low, and closing prices, as well as the volume. Okay, standard sort of stuff there. And then there's another table here, which is called stock sentiment, where I'm actually storing some sentiment data. So that's got like headlines and positive, negative, neutral, the URL that points to the specific article, who was the publisher, what was the date that this was published, and what stock symbol does this relate to. So those are the two tables that I've got. And what I'm going to do is the Kafka is going to feed the tick table. Okay, and I'll show you that momentarily. The stock sentiment, what I've done there is I've used something that we have as part of SingleStore called WebAssembly code engine. And I wrote some Rust code, packaged it up into a UDF, and this was using some existing libraries that were available and something called VADA, Valence Aware Dictionary and Sentiment Reasoner. So this allows you to take a string, okay, or some text, and then it can determine what the sentiment is on that, you know, whether it's positive sentiment, negative, neutral, and so on. It's very straightforward to do. And again, it's been covered in other articles and other webinars that we've presented, but that's essentially what I used. And the data that I've used here, in past presentations, I've had to limit myself because I used a different technology to generate the sentiment, but it took too long. With the approach that I use with WebAssembly, it was very, very fast. Although it will take a little bit of time to load because it's over 400 megabytes worth of data. So again, instructions in the blog post that Matt will share with you. So essentially, that's what I've done there. So two tables there to start with. And then this is really all that's required in terms of the Kafka. Okay. So this is a means that we have, and it supports other sources of data as well. So in this particular instance, I've told it that create a pipeline, and then what we're going to do is that the format you're going to load in is Kafka. Here are the details of the broker. Okay, so you've got the address, the port number, and the topic here. It's called stock ticker. Okay, so this is running at the moment, and as I said before, this is publicly available, so you're very welcome to connect to this and utilize this as well. Caveat in place, though, please be aware of that. It's fake data, okay? Can't stress that enough. And then basically, we're just telling the pipeline that we're going to store this data into this tick table, and then we give it a little bit of information about what's the field, you know, what are the fields terminated by here. And there's lots of options here. I mean, the documentation contains far more than I have time to discuss today. And then we tell it that we have which particular columns we're going to sort of feed this into: the symbol, timestamp, open, high, low, okay, closing price, volume, and that's what's actually happening. Okay, so once this is set up, you can basically just tell it, okay, start at the very earliest offset. If you want to do that, you can initially test it. This will actually fail if I try and do it now because it's already running. And then just start the pipeline. And this pipeline has actually been running for, let me have a look at the time now, for about 8 hours now. I've had this running for 8 hours. And I can do this command here called show pipelines just to take a look at this. Oops, sorry, I think it wants me to select the at the top here, the database. Let me just make sure I've got that set up. We go Whisper demo. Okay, so I need to be connected to the correct database and time series DB. There we go. Now this should work here. So let me just run this again. And if I do this, let me see there, you can see it gives me some status here. So it tells me that this tick pipeline is there. The current state is it's running. I didn't schedule it. Okay, that's fine. So this has been running for, like I said, about 8 hours or so. And we can take a look and let's see how many records we currently have. So we could say select count star from tick and just see what it returns. And it tells me at the moment it's got some, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, over 15 million records. That and if I come back and do this and run the command again in a while, the number will have gone up. So it's continuous feed until I stop this, okay? Or I delete the database or something, and it's got nothing to write into. But that's been running for a while. So there you can see, like I said, it's embarrassingly simple. So there are other sources that you can use instead of Kafka. So you could point this to, say, an S3 bucket or something. Okay, you can create a pipeline that way. It's just that in this particular case, because we have a steady stream of data from some source, we are connected there and we are feeding that data directly into the table. And over time, that table is growing. And if we do some analytics on that, say we create some pie charts or bar graphs or whatever, we'll be able to see the changes reflected in that over time as new data arrive and so on. Okay, so that's essentially the setup that we have. Now, the next thing then is that we want to have a little bit of code to run. So here is a notebook, very straightforward. Okay, so I will take the risk and clear output of all cells, restart this and actually run through this. And again, I need to make sure that I'm connected to the right resource at the top here. That was the mistake I just made a moment ago. So you can see that this environment is shared with other colleagues here. So I'll choose Whisper Demo and we connect to time series DB. There we are, that's our database. So down here, we've got some very simple stuff that we can do straight away with time series. And again, don't worry too much if you don't know too much about this, but essentially what we're able to do is we can do a little bit of kind of price symbol and averaging. So this is just returning the 5 rows. So we are just taking the values of the various symbols arriving there. And based upon what's already in there, you can see, okay, select the average, standard SQL function there, group by symbol, order by symbol, and just limit to 5. Just show me 5. And these, as you can see, they're in kind of alphabetical order. Other things, time bucketing, okay, and do this over, find the average time series value grouped by 5-day intervals as follows. Now, there probably isn't enough data to be very useful at the moment, but this one for AAPL, okay, Apple. And then we can do something a little bit more interesting, just creating a window here, as you can see. Okay. Candlestick chart, right? So that's the kind of text version of that, if you like. And it looks slightly nicer when you do it using Plotly or something like this. So it's asking me how many days. Well, let's select 2. And what's the symbol that I want? Again, I'll put in AAPL and hit return, and it will generate. There we go. So not an awful lot to look at there, but as you can see, I mean, this just gives me a bit of information of what's happening here so far. These candlestick charts, I think, are very useful. Other things, windowed aggregates. Okay. This is over a period of 3. Okay, 3 ticks. So you can see that as well. And then this one here. You need to change the value in here, okay, for the GitHub repo. I've adjusted this date here to today, midnight as of today, and it will tell me what the latest value is for that high, low, open, close, and the volume of trade. Okay. And sentiment data here. Okay, so now we take a look at that other table. So again, I'm just interested in the headline and output the positive, negative, and the neutral. And a word of caution, as I said before, because this data for this particular table is quite large, I mean, it's a couple of 100 megabytes. Even I struggled to figure out how to get it into GitHub. It's the first time I had to put something that large. I mean, they have this kind of special area where you can load very large files. So eventually I discovered that, and it's up there. So you can download it. But if you do decide to create that table and upload it, it will take a couple of minutes, okay? So if we take a look at this, we can see here that the values have already been generated for us, okay? I've done all the hard work for you as far as these headlines are concerned using Veda. And so you can see in some instances here, the first line, we've got the case that there is a kind of a mixture of positive, negative, and neutral here. Whereas in the other values that have been shown here, everything is pretty much neutral here. As you can see, it's got a value of 1. Okay, so that could be useful. So here, the essence is that maybe you want to do some analysis and look at, okay, show me a particular stock symbol, for example, as of some particular date. And then you might say, all right, show me what the sentiment was that on that particular date. And then show me the particular articles that reference that, could be useful if you're doing some analysis of the stock market and stocks in general. Okay, so that's very straightforward there. So the next thing here is we move down. And I'm going to use a bit of LangChain and OpenAI here to show you some additional things, okay? And then we bring everything together in the last part there. And then just before the end, I'll show you a little bit of whisper technology from OpenAI. It's essentially speech to text, text to speech, okay? That I'll try my best. Generally, it understands me, okay? But I did discover this morning that because of changes in these libraries over time, and this is one of the big headaches that I think we have as developers, is that unfortunately, stuff just changes. It's important to pin the versions of these specific libraries. Otherwise, you get into all sorts of difficulties because things break, code breaks. So even though I did this, and you can see here that I have pinned LangChain to this 0.1 version and OpenAI to 1.71, this code works a while back. It broke this morning, and I have no idea why. Okay, so it happens, unfortunately, and it's frustrating. Okay, but let's just utilize this. Okay, and I'll tell you where I got frustrated. Okay, but it's asking now for my OpenAI key. So let me just put that in. Hopefully that's the correct key, and I didn't copy and paste anything else. There we go. Just use get past to put that in. So one of the things that we can do is we can load in some data, PDF data, for example. So we need a couple of these libraries here, such as PDF Miner, Tick Token, unstructured. And again, very important to pin specific versions of the libraries. Here, I think the one that caused me difficulty was this one, unstructured, which changed. And so I had to go back to this particular version. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually accessing a file, a PDF file. This is, I think it's Northern Ireland, invest in Northern Ireland, hence the URL of the website there. And so this provides opportunities to see where you might want to invest in certain things within the Northern Ireland, Northern Irish economy. So we just take LangChain, take that document, just find out how many characters we have there. Well, it's one document, and as you can see, it's nearly 40,000 characters. So it's broke that down, and then we kind of chunk this up. Chunk size 2,000, no overlap. Having some overlap is probably a good idea, you know. And oh, pardon me, I made a mistake there. Forgive me there. Actually, we do have an overlap of 20. I thought it was 0. Misread that. Sorry. So what that breaks down to then is 23 pages. Okay, and then we can do this. Now it will give me some warnings here. Okay, it will warn me that stuff is deprecated. That's okay. This version, because I've pinned it to this specific version of LangChain, it will work. That's fine. You don't have to worry about this, although this probably should be corrected for future versions, but that's okay. The table here that we're going to use to store this, just make sure that that's removed so we start fresh. And then here you can see literally a couple of lines of code are all that are required to just store that PDF document in SingleStore. And the framework does all the hard work for me. I don't have to specify any, you know, store this, store that kind of thing. And then we can just take a look at what's actually gone in. And so here you can see that chunking up. We're seeing some elements of the actual content here. And this is the vector representation. Okay, these are bytes. And we can actually see that in a slightly better way, what we might traditionally term as vectors here. Oh, pardon me, just trying to be too clever again. There we are. Okay, these are the actual sort of numerical values. So then we can ask kind of interesting questions here. You know, what are the best investment opportunities in blockchain, for example? I'm not very familiar with this area, so maybe I'll be quite interested to see if I want to invest. And it does some analysis for me, comes up with some recommendations there, PwC, Vox Financial Partners, and so on. And then we can actually use the LLM to provide us with a more succinct kind of summary. And there we go. In a paragraph, it's given me some advice there and some analysis of what might be good areas for investment opportunities. Okay. And I will drop this table at the end here because, and again, I'll explain this to you later, we're using some capabilities of SingleStore and subsequently for Whisper. Because I'm using something specific to MySQL rather than SingleStore, it complains about the table structure because it's trying to look at everything that's within that particular database. So just for now, we'll just remove that, okay? And then here's the interesting bit. Okay, finally, we can actually utilize our stream data. We give LangChain a little bit of information here in terms of what we want to do. We are going to use this Turbo Instruct ChatGPT 3.5, and we're going to set the temperature to 0, okay, so that it's deterministic in terms of answers. It's a good idea to put these kind of max iterations and execution times, otherwise things tend to time out. Okay, so we just set this up. There we go. Again, some warnings there. Don't worry about that. It's pinned to a specific version, so this code will work going forward. And then now what we can do is, based upon that streaming data, remember that data is continuing to arrive all the time. So we can ask questions in natural language. And so here, I'm simply asking a question here. from the tick table, which stock symbol saw the least volatility in share trading in the data set? So notice that I'm being quite specific as well. If I just said to it from the database, which stock symbol saw the least volatility, what it would try to do would be try to access all the tables. That includes the tick table, that includes the sentiment table, that would have included this table up above as well that I just removed. And therefore, think of it like a 5-year-old child. Basically, you have to be very specific and give it concise instructions as to what you want to do. By all means, you can express this in English as I've done there. And if you do that, it will be, it has enough information to go on in terms of kind of understanding what it is that you're asking. And again, don't worry about the warning message there. So there we go. So it's returned me an answer here. It says the stock symbol with the least volatility in share trading is FRT. All right. And then, of course, we could generalize this a bit more here. Rather than just hard coding that, we could make this a prompt like so, and then we can type something in. So I might ask the question, what is the average price of, and notice I've mistyped average there, okay? So it's a typo that I've put in of AAPL in the tick table. So I give it, again, enough instructions to focus its attention just on the ticker data. There we are. And so it's come back and it's given me the answer 116.752911. So in this particular case, it's worked well. In the past, when I demoed this and the sentiment table was a lot smaller, a couple of hundred rows, I had no problems in terms of leaving out tick tables specifically. I mean, the quantity of data was small enough that in terms of the token count, as a threshold, the limits, I had no issues. Once I'd stored several hundred megabytes of sentiment data, without focusing its attention, what it tries to do is access everything. And then it complains, okay, because it says basically there's too much stuff and, you've exceeded the limits, which is fair enough. I mean, now I'm kind of asking it to, the space in terms of the quantity of data that it's having to look at in order to answer my queries a lot bigger than previously when I demoed this. So here you can see very, very straightforward, easy to integrate Kafka, straightforward using pipelines. We're taking that feed in, going into SingleStore, data is accumulating continuously. And then here, using a kind of a natural language interface, using LangChain, OpenAI, other LLMs will work as well. LangChain works with lots of different technologies, but this gives us the ability to ask questions of the database, pose this in natural language, and even there, although I mistyped something in there, it was smart enough to understand what it is that I was asking and be able to respond to that query. Okay, so super simple to do that. Let me just minimize this now, and let's take a look at this. Okay, so we want the window here. Let's just make this a bit bigger there. Hopefully you can see that okay. And again, Matt, please keep me straight. So I am now showing my Linux virtual machine. So let me show you the ticker data. Okay, let's just make this a bit bigger so that the text is a bit more readable. There we go. So I'm just using Kafka Cat here. I'm giving it a bit of information. It's going to be a consumer. Here are the details of the broker. There is the stock ticker. And if we run this, okay, you can see this is the feed, okay? This is what it's actually utilizing. So on the left-hand side, the extreme left, you've got the stock symbol, and then you've got timestamp, and then you've got the high, low, open, close prices and the volume. So that will just keep going. So I'll just stop that. There we go. And then what you can do is another kind of interesting thing here. Let's just, again, make this bigger. This a little bit bigger here. Just keep an eye on the time. We're doing well for time. And I think it's a good idea if I increase the volume on my laptop. So let me max that right up. Okay, there we go. And then let's take a look at this thing here. Okay. So again, when this runs, you will see a few warning messages and errors in the background. Part of it is, it's my fault. Okay, I really should be utilizing drivers specific to SingleStore, but let me minimize these so that they are less of an sort of a problem for us. Okay. And so here I'm using OpenAI's Whisper. So I could let me have a think. So ask a question. What is the average price for IBM in the tick table? Okay, there we go. And so it's given me an answer. It says the average price for IBM in the tick table is 167.332548. Okay, so let's just exit from there. And instead, let's try something a bit more. Okay, let's try, just again, wait for that one to come up. So there we are. So this one, slightly better interface here, as you can see. So we could ask the question, how many records are in the tick table? There we go. And it's given me a value there. So as you remember, it was just a little bit over 15 million a while back. Well, now it's got to about 15,150,000. So since we last checked, that volume has gone up considerably. And then the kind of final version, which is, again, super easy to add, is really just add a bit of speech capability so that rather than just showing me the result, it actually, the speech synthesizer outputs it. And because I'm running this in here, unfortunately, it comes out rather robotic, but that's okay. Okay, let me have a think. What could we ask it? What is the best performing stock in the tick table? Any time before Christmas will be great. Okay, it's stuck. Seems to be stuck. Let me try and exit from here. No, it's hung. My apologies. We can try it one more time, okay? We can try from here, do a Control-C, okay? Easiest thing to do. Let's try that one more time, right? I have a feeling I'm maxing out the resources on my machine here, but let's try one more time. All right, there we go. Let's try this. Okay. What's the best performing stock in the tick table?
The best performing stock in the tick table is BCLN.
Okay, there we go. Second time lucky. There we go. All right, there we go. So the code for this is available. Okay, you're very welcome to use that. And let me just bear with me one moment. Let me just pause the share there a moment and just minimize this. There we go. Switch to back to the browser and see if I can pull that up. The right window. And just make this up. Resume share. Okay, so let's go back here. So there we go. My favorite quote. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So very straightforward, easy to work with streaming technology. A couple of days ago, we looked at structured streaming from Spark, for example, and how we could use that with SingleStore. Today, we've looked at Kafka. It's a no-brainer. And the documentation gives you a lot more options in terms of control. I used a particular threshold as well and kind of limited the amount that's going in. It has certain guarantees as well, okay? So just like Kafka, it will guarantee delivery once, you know, if that is what you require. And from the AI side, LangChain, OpenAI, you know, very easy to integrate that. We can utilize the natural language capabilities. That gives us the, you know, the ability to plug in and ask questions of the data. And remember that what we may get back as an answer now may be very different from what it may be in sort of, you know, the next hour, simply because new data have arrived. And if we're looking for averages or what's the best or the worst or the highest or the lowest, for example, that may well change significantly. With the speech stuff, I think this is maybe something that's useful, could be helpful in certain domains, but you saw there that two of the three examples work straight away. The third one did fail the first time. You know, these are not meant to be production applications. My comment on this as well is be careful in terms of libraries. That can cause real headaches, as it did me this morning, despite me pinning specific versions. And again, treat the LLM in a respectful way, okay? You know, understand that it is like a small child, okay? It doesn't actually know a lot. You have to tell it precisely, give it exact details of what it is you want. Otherwise, it just goes off and tries to get everything. And so in the instances where I don't focus its attention specifically on the tick table, it tries to access the entire database. And then you get these errors that, you know, it can't respond because it's timed out, too much data, and so on. And so that's a challenge, okay? So be aware of that. Okay, there we go. All right, Matt. So we are at the end here, and I think I've helpfully finished a little bit early today. So we got time for more questions.
Yeah, time for a few questions. So just a reminder, everyone, we got the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom console. We've got a couple minutes for more questions, so keep them coming. Akmal, first and foremost, I'm seeing you know, your usual compliments in the chat. People saying amazing, thank you, you're very talented. So wanted to pass those along.
It's a team effort. I have you see the guy up front, okay? There's a load of people behind me that help. That's the key thing, okay? We all work together.
Very kind of you. I know one question was about, you mentioned a blog earlier about how the Kafka broker was set up. I tried to find that myself. You're prolific enough in your medium that I'm not sure that I found the right one, but I wonder if you could talk a little bit about, you know, what that blog post was and about how that Kafka broker was set up.
Yeah. So essentially, all the steps that I showed today, I explained in detail in the article. So I think it's in the Slack channel, Matt. If you check the discussion that we had a little bit earlier, so I gave you the link to the GitHub repo. There's a link just above it to the article itself. So the article will walk you through the steps, and it will discuss in a little bit more detail some of the code and so on, and has some links to some other blog posts as well. But what I wanted to do specifically was focus on this issue in terms of saying, well, look, this is how easy it is to set up connecting to Kafka as a source in terms of getting data from there. And SingleStore is actually smart enough to be able to write to Kafka as well. So if you want the information to go back the other way, you can do that as well. So now it will write to a Kafka stream, and then you can consume that somewhere else if you wish. So very straightforward there. And then again, for the Python code, for the kind of voice recognition, OpenAI's Whisper technology, that's free. You can use their open source version, which is on GitHub, no charge for that. If you decide to use their commercial offering, obviously you will have to pay for that privilege. But I would go for the open source. The model is good enough. As you can see, it recognized my voice. Obviously, bit of a hiccup in that last example, but I think my machine is kind of maxed out in terms of resources that it's currently using. So I suspect that might be the issue there.
Good stuff, Akmal. I think well, let's see. I'll get to this one before I get to that. One just came in. Wanted to ask, should the users be aware of how to write database commands, or is there an easy way offered by SingleStore to access any uploaded data or docs?
Right. That's a great question. So one of the things that we have available within SingleStore portal is something called Stages. So Stages is one of the things that unfortunately is not available with a free tier. Okay, you will have to set up the dedicated resource, which is what I was using today. But you'll see an option for that. So essentially, let's say you've got a CSV file that you want to upload. You can just copy that in there, and then you can ask the Stages to generate the commands for you. And what it will do, it will introspect, look at the structure of that CSV file, see the columns, see the data types, and it will automatically generate a notebook for you with all the commands contained within that, even a table, how to create the table, how to upload it, how to get everything in, and you just click and run the cells one by one, and everything's done for you auto-magically. And that is very, very helpful, particularly if you're not very comfortable with, say, SQL, or you don't have a lot of experience with SQL, but you want an easier way to be able to get your data into the database system. So that would be a great way to do that. Highly recommend that.
Great call. That's been a huge help for me. Not a developer background by any means, but I use Stages myself often. It's awesome. Very easy to upload data, get it into notebooks just with a few clicks. I think that's also coming to our free tier eventually. It's not there yet. So you got to select the free trial during the sign up phase, but eventually that'll be in our free tier too. Awesome work, Akmal. Let me just point out a few quick announcements before we get to the AirPods raffle and the Ray-Bans raffle. Reminder that we've got awesome webinars coming up over the next few days. Monday is the Vercel AI SDK with generative AI, or generative UI, I should say. I just put that link in the chat. As well as Wednesday, we've got building AI apps and agents in minutes with Phi Data. And then on Friday of next week, we're doing a session on the new Gemini 1.5 Pro. It's got that native audio, the file API, JSON mode, and 1 million context window. Hopefully, we'll see you at one of those sessions next week. Click now if you want to RSVP. And then the announcement you've been waiting for, today's raffle winner is Mahalingam, who is a lead technical specialist at Dow Jones in North Carolina. Congrats.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining. If that's not you, don't give up. We're going to give out one more prize later today to someone who has tried out Akmal's demo. So once again, very easy to sign up. I'll put that raffle link in the chat again. You can just sign up in 30 seconds. And then check out Akmal's GitHub from there. We're going to put that GitHub in our emails. Everyone will get the recording, link to Akmal's blog post, a link to Akmal's GitHub, so you'll have everything you need to get started. Thanks.
Matt, I was just thinking, sorry to interrupt you, sir. I was just thinking that Gemini 1.5, because of the 1 million context window, probably that would be a great way in terms of working with this application, simply because it's not going to break the number of tokens or the amount of data that I'm sending across. That'd be a great extension to see if that would actually work in this case. And I think it would. That would be awesome. I'll look into that when I've got some time. Thank you.
Love it. If you got 30 seconds for one, and maybe this is a question for Eric Hansen, I don't know, but it's an interesting question I'm interested in. What is the difference between vectors in bytes and embeddings like floating point?
Right. Okay. So the vectors in bytes is just the internal representation of the data. So previously, when we used to have just blobs as the mechanism that we used to store the data, we had to convert them to this JSON array pack format. And that's what I was actually showing there. But it's not human readable and not very useful to us. That's what the database has got it stored as. So we'd like to see it in numbers, and then we can convert it back into a form that we can read as human beings, and then be able to to share with the other applications as well.
Got it. Makes sense. Okay, thanks, Akmal. Thank you to our audience for going a minute over with us. Hopefully, we'll see you at the next session. Have a good one.
Right.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.